You can pay your membership later and get started today. That's whatever your vision is. Or if you need us to help you to be inspired with a vision, we can help you find that vision where you can be self-employed or a successful entrepreneur. We help skilled tradespeople, musicians, security, caterers, hairstylists, inventors, authors, network marketers, counselors, and more to become successful entrepreneurs. Your vision started today. So what are you waiting for? Get started at gciassociates.org and click the Get Started button on the lower left of the video to get started without needing to pay anything up front. Or the See Website button to the lower right of the video to see our website. And may Jesus Christ bless you exceedingly. What you may need is a business plan, so investors will take you seriously, which will double your chance of making it all by itself. Business training is still one of the aforementioned resources that make the difference between failure and success. Face it, unlike the rest of the world, God's people perish for a lack of knowledge. This truth is universal and can be applied to every area of life. We covered already the number one reason most businesses fail: lack of money. Dream of having a business plan, presentation training, and people ready to invest in you to present your plan to. Now, let's envision that. Most quality people will not work for you for an affordable price. They will not work with you easily and have their own visions and wants. Our networks equally yoke you with believers who are quality, hard workers, and sincerely interested in seeing you succeed. Love others as yourself, right? They do. And take your vision upon their own experienced, resource-filled shoulders. All of this sound good to you? Then what you need is a support to bear the burden of your great vision in love. What you need is GCI Associates Incorporated to get your vision off the ground, because our members receive all of those resources complimentary. That's right, complimentary. The standard SBA-approved business plan costs thousands, and business training sufficient to start a new company can easily exceed $5,000. And you can't pay to find quality people to network with you, work for you, and invest in you. It would cost you over $10,000 easy just to get half of what our members receive complimentary with their memberships, and that would include the quality people, of course. Our memberships are only $249 per month, but for a limited time, you can lock in your membership at only $49 per month, which will stay $49 per month even when we return to our normal great price of $249 per month. You'll still have the same low $49 per month for as long as you're a member. Looking at the big picture, you can either ride down with the world or fly high above the world. At least you have the free will to choose, right? Your vision can really fly this time. Get started today and buy your ticket later. That's right, you can pay your membership later and get started today. That's whatever your vision is. I've amassed large amounts of money, lost it and gained it back, then gave it all up and got it back again. It's really easier than most people make it. At the end of this presentation, I'll show you how. And it doesn't matter whether you're a tradesperson, author, musician, or any other field. However, for most people, outside of what you'll get in this presentation, succeeding in this economy feels more like a free fall. Don't you wish you could hit rewind on your life? Back up to before things began to decline? Sure. Let's see if we can take a look at the big picture and get a handle on things before they fall any farther. Let's go back to a time when getting off of ground level financially was simply a matter of ingenuity and hard work, and see how things were back then. From the Industrial Revolution back to ancient times, everyone had their own trade, called a trade because what you produced was valuable and could be traded. There were farmers, metalsmiths, tanners, even hunters and trappers brought something to the table, literally, but nearly all of the like had their own. They all were entrepreneurs, all of them, and they were free. They were even called free men, though many people did work as servants. Let's put that into today's terms and make it easier to understand. Again, the free men are what we call today entrepreneurs, and the servants are referred to as employees in today's time. However, it wasn't the end of the world to be a servant. Freeborn servants always had the opportunity to work until they were able to become free men. That is, the employees were able to work until they were able to become entrepreneurs. When the servants, or employees, worked until they became free men, or entrepreneurs, they were happy. If they got too old to work, or retired before they could become free men, or entrepreneurs, it wasn't a good feeling at all. Obviously, things have changed quite a bit over the generations. We've gone from large amounts of people being able to soar above ground level to just a few. Let's take a look at where we are today.
There's a chart I saw recently that I can't get out of my head. A Harvard business professor and economist asked more than 5,000 Americans how they thought wealth was distributed in the United States. This is what they said they thought it was. Dividing the country into 5 rough groups of the top, bottom, and middle 3 20% groups, they asked people how they thought the wealth in this country was divided. Then he asked them what they thought was the ideal distribution. And 92%, that's at least 9 out of 10 of them, said it should be more like this. In other words, more equitable than they think it is. Now that fact is telling, admittedly, the notion that most Americans know that the system is already skewed unfairly. But what's most interesting to me is the reality compared to our perception. The ideal is as far removed from our perception of reality as the actual distribution is from what we think exists in this country. So ignore the ideal for a moment. Here's what we think it is again. And here is the actual distribution. Shockingly skewed. Not only do the bottom 20% and the next 20%, the bottom 40% of Americans barely have any of the wealth. I mean, it's hard to even see them on the chart. But the top 1% has more of the country's wealth than 9 out of 10 Americans believe the entire top 20% should have. Mind-blowing. But let's look at it another way, because I find this chart kind of difficult to wrap my head around. Instead, let's reduce the 311 million Americans to just a representative 100 people. Make it simple. Here they are. Teachers, coaches, firefighters, construction workers, engineers, doctors, lawyers, some investment bankers, a CEO, maybe a celebrity or two. Now let's line them up according to their wealth. Poorest people on the left, wealthiest on the right, just a steady row of folks based on their net worth. We'll color code them like we did before based on which 20% quintile they fall into. Now let's reduce the total wealth of the United States, which was roughly $54 trillion in 2009, to this symbolic pile of cash. And let's distribute it among our 100 Americans. Well, here's socialism, all the wealth of the country distributed equally. We all know that won't work. We need to encourage people to work and work hard to achieve that good old American dream and keep our country moving forward. So, here's that ideal we asked everyone about. Something like this curve. This isn't too bad. We've got some incentive, as the wealthiest folks are now about 10 to 20 times better off than the poorest Americans. But hey, even the poor folks aren't actually poor, since the poverty line has stayed almost entirely off the chart. We have a super healthy middle class with a smooth transition into wealth. And yes, Republicans and Democrats alike chose this curve. 9 out of 10 people, 92%, said this was a nice, ideal distribution of America's wealth. But let's move on. This is what people think America's wealth distribution actually looks like. Not as equitable, clearly, but for me, even this still looks pretty great. Yes, the poorest 20 to 30% are starting to suffer quite a lot compared to the ideal, and the middle class is certainly struggling more than they were, while the rich and wealthy are making roughly 100 times that of the poorest Americans, and about 10 times that of the still healthy middle class. Sadly, this isn't even close to the reality. Here is the actual distribution of wealth in America. The poorest Americans don't even register. They're down to pocket change. And the middle class is barely distinguishable from the poor. In fact, even the rich between the top 10 and 20 percentile are worse off. Only the top 10% are better off. And how much better off? So much better off that the top 2 to 5% are actually off the chart at this scale. And the top 1%, this guy, well, his stack of money stretches 10 times higher than we can show. Here's his stack of cash, restacked, all by itself. This is the top 1% we've been hearing so much about. So much green in his pockets that I have to give him a whole new column of his own, because he won't fit on my chart. 1% of America has 40% of all the nation's wealth. The bottom 80%, 8 out of every 10 people, or 80 out of these 100, only has 7% between them. And this has only gotten worse in the last 20 to 30 years. While the richest 1% take home almost a quarter of the national income today, in 1976, they took home only 9%. meaning their share of income has nearly tripled in the last 30 years. The top 1% own half the country's stocks, bonds, and mutual funds. The bottom 50% of Americans own only 0.5% of these investments, which means they aren't investing. They're just scraping by. I'm sure many of these wealthy people have worked very hard for their money. But do you really believe that the CEO is working 380 times harder than his average employee? Not his lowest paid employee, not the janitor, but the average earner in his company. The average worker needs to work more than a month to earn what the CEO makes in 1 hour. We certainly don't have to go all the way to socialism to find something that is fair for hardworking Americans. We don't even have to achieve what most of us consider might be ideal. All we need to do is wake up and realize that the reality in this country is not at all what we think it is.
And the inequality is increasing so rapidly, something will need to change before the middle class hits rock bottom. But why is it like this, and what can we realistically do about it? I'll just say the traditional economic game plan is definitely for the birds. But to keep from wasting time, I sought the only resource for perfect decision making. I prayed to the Lord Jesus Christ. The response I received from God was refreshing, to say the least. I'll just cover a little of the information from the major points. The way the system of money has been engineered, there is always enough money for everyone to live comfortably. There has been an exponential increase in knowledge, and what used to be enough education is no longer enough. With the increase in knowledge, there needs to be an increase in what's considered acceptable education among those without much of the world's goods. There were groups of people who were hindered in the U.S., but not anymore. However, there has been a failure to seek after sufficient education to function in today's advanced world. Arteries supply blood to multiple vessels. If an artery holds on to the blood, the vessels connected will not receive the supply of blood they need. The artery will be a curse to the body, and they will need to bypass it, if it's not too hard to open up, to prevent a member of their body from becoming withered. Likewise, those with a large cash flow are financial arteries. But if those arteries hold on to the cash flow, believing they're blessed, and the connected vessels are cursed because they don't have much of the flow, then they have become as a blood clot in the world systems. All poverty is a result of people who are vessels of finances becoming as blood clots, which is being selfish and covetous. It's called blood flow in the body and cash flow in the world. Let's see how that looks in the real world. Let's look at the D. That's right, Detroit. Just look at any freeway during rush hour. Morning rush hour, and there are jams of vehicles on I-75, I-94, US 10, etc., rushing into Detroit from other cities to their jobs inside of the Sea of Detroit. Evening rush hour, and there are scores of vehicles on all of these freeways, rushing hundreds of millions of dollars outside of the Detroit economy. The majority of residents of the city of Detroit won't be hired by the companies making money in Detroit, and as a result, there are many parts of the city decaying and dying, like an arm that doesn't receive any blood. But this same circulatory problem is occurring in the world, causing this same withering effect on the United States economy. I spoke with a loan broker in my family about the world economy, and he presented a little considered perspective regarding the world trading system. Every major country has products that they make a great deal of their money off of. In the Middle East, oil is a major product. In China, electronic devices. But in the US, the people are the product. How is money made off the people, might you ask? Quite simple. Like cows, they're milked. Working class people's taxes are sent to the rich in bailouts, which causes even more inequality of wealth. Corporations who are built on greed spend and invest their excess money among other rich corporations who are usually the same way. And since the whole world sees the U.S. as the place to extract rich blood, money, the U.S. tends to be a target for economic vampiring of other nations. The U.S. gives money, but it won't be given back, only loaned back, and then with interest. Consider this circulatory problem. The U.S. borrows money from China. U.S. citizens give the money back to China in exchange for goods. And the U.S. government gives the money to other countries like Pakistan. And the Pakistani government takes that money and gives it back to China to buy weapons. In this system, the United States is the unpaid donor. But don't worry about competition from China. There's a new group that's more competition than any human can win against. Robots are taking more jobs than any other group. Some of them are union installed, but they will never take a break. And forget about retirement benefits. They work until they die. Many of you on unemployment right now had your job taken by one of these. They are the new receptionists when you call to pay your phone bill or file your unemployment. They are bilingual, but programmed to only hear what they want you to tell them as a way to control you in the conversation with the "I don't understand" speech. Major government offices and business departments have been shut down, laying off untold numbers of hard-working citizens in exchange for one of these programs. They've replaced stuntmen and actors in most movies. And one more generation of technology, and you'll have a hard time telling the difference between one of these gens and a real human being. And we continue to encourage companies to replace humans with them, joyfully, not caring about the person who just lost their job, though automation is targeting virtually every field a human can work. Yes, humans aren't squashing grapes in comparison with anti-human engineering. And anti-human engineering exponentially accelerates the inequality of wealth in America. Imagine a world where most corporations have no humans employed. Yes, America, the economic prognosis is definitely for the birds. But don't get dismayed. I don't believe in tearing down a wall without building a better one in its place. Likewise, I'm here to give you a solution that sincerely works. But so there's no argument, let's look at the game plan that most people select before telling you how I made so much money from square one. Let's look at the traditional American dream. You get an education. You work, you retire. An advanced degree is very helpful in getting and keeping a job. But now you've got to work, and yes, you have to work. You've got that advanced degree loan that you have to pay off. More than likely a home mortgage, car note, retirement plan. Yes, you're talking about 40 years of servitude if you got started right after school. Most of your time has been spent trained to be a servant, that is, going to school, and in serving, that is, working. After 45 years, you've earned your freedom and get to live on a fixed income with less than you made throughout your 40 years of servitude. You know the rest. Joel 2:28 says that when God pours his spirit out on all flesh, the old men will dream dreams and the young men will see visions. All a dream is a vision that you sleep through. The prophet must have been referring to the age of the spirit, since after the vision was fulfilled in Acts, old people have seen visions. Applying this concept behind the age of the spirit on a lower level, those with a tired spirit often are dreamers, but those young in spirit don't go to sleep on the visions God gave them. Maybe it would have worked out better if it were the American vision instead of a dream. Maybe most American citizens wouldn't have gone to sleep on it. Moving on, the only, I mean only, certain economic plan is in business ownership. It's the only way to earn enough not to struggle, to not be a servant to corporations, to ensure that your family won't be a family of servants to other people's businesses, to fly high enough above board that it won't matter what happens in the economy. I know. That's easier said than done, right? I mean, even according to Dun & Bradstreet and Inc. magazine, 33% of all new businesses fail within the first 6 months. 1 out of every 2 businesses fail within their first 2 years. And 75% fail within the first 3 years. That's just being a realist. But that's not that bad. That still leaves a 25% success rate. You just have to know what the 25% are doing that the 75% of new business aspirants are not. Let's take a look at why the 75% within the first 2 years fail. There are 4 primary reasons. Lack of finances, lack of a business plan. And by the way, according to a survey done by business planner Tim Berry, the founder of Palo Alto Software, business plans double the chance of success in business and increases the probability of the business growing and receiving the money they need to get started out right. Lack of training is also a major reason why most new businesses failed. And of course, a poor quality of people, either on the board, in management, or working in the field is always going to be a large reason for failing to succeed at business. Now this is just considering the standard forms of businesses. I'm sure some who see this are wondering about network marketing. You know, the multi-level marketing companies. MLMs are still recorded as being the #1 way for working class people to make over $1 million. However, only for people who start their own MLMs and their buddies who signed on first. MLMs do have the potential to work for everyone else if they're set up with love and not selfishly. Unfortunately, they are usually set up to filter all of the money up to the person who founded the company and their buddies who signed on first. Moving on. But there is a high success rate for those who have everything they need when they go into business. What you need is a fair chance to get ahead. What you may need is a business plan. so investors will take you seriously, which will double your chance of making it all by itself. Business training is still one of the aforementioned resources that make the difference between failure and success. Face it, unlike the rest of the world, God's people perish for a lack of knowledge. This truth is universal and can be applied to every area of life. We covered already the number one reason most businesses fail: lack of money. Dream of having a business plan, presentation training, and people ready to invest in you to present your plan to. Now, let's envision that. Most quality people will not work for you for an affordable price. They will not work with you easily and have their own visions and wants. Our networks equally yoke you with believers who are quality, hard workers, and sincerely interested in seeing you succeed. Love others as yourself, right? They do. And take your vision upon their own, experienced, resource-filled shoulders. All of this sound good to you? Then what you need is a support to bear the burden of your great vision in love. What you need is GCI Associates Incorporated to get your vision off the ground, because our members receive all of those resources complimentary. That's right, complimentary. The standard SBA approved business plan costs thousands, and business training sufficient to start a new company can easily exceed $5,000. And you can't pay to find quality people to network with you, work for you, and invest in you. It would cost you over $10,000 easy just to get half of what our members receive complimentary with their memberships, and that would include the quality people, of course. Our memberships are only $249 per month, but for a limited time, you can lock in your membership at only $49 per month, which will stay $49 per month even when we return to our normal great price of $249 per month. You'll still have the same low $49 per month for as long as you're a member. Looking at the big picture, you can either ride down with the world or fly high above the world. At least you have the free will to choose, right? Your vision can really fly this time. Get started today and buy your ticket later. That's right, you can pay your membership later and get started today. That's whatever your vision is. Or if you don't have a vision yet, we can help you to be inspired with a vision. We help skilled tradespeople, musicians, security, caterers, hairstylists, inventors, authors, network marketers, counselors, and more to become successful entrepreneurs. Your vision started today. So what are you waiting for? Get started at gciassociates.org and click the Get Started button on the lower left of the video to get started without needing to pay anything up front, or the See Website button to the lower right of the video to see our website. And may Jesus Christ bless you exceedingly.